Time is running out for the House and Senate to vote on competing immigration bills, but right now Republican lawmakers placing the blame for the crisis squarely on President Obama.
This is a humanitarian crisis, but it is the direct consequence of President Obama's lawlessness.
The president is preparing to assume for himself the absolute power to set immigration law in America.
If in fact he gives work permits to 5 or 6 million people, you're going to see an additional surge of people coming.
They're coming because they believe they're getting amnesty.
He's the president of the United States. He could solve this problem today.
We're not going to solve this crisis until we stop President Obama's amnesty.
Get into America by any method you can, and you will never have to leave.
And Senator Ted Cruz joins us. Nice to see you, Senator.
Good to see you, Greta.
Obviously, you blame President Obama, and I'll get to that in a second. But first, does the Republican Party bear any of the responsibility of blame for the situation we have right now at the border?
Well, sure. Look, both parties bear some of the responsibility because we failed to secure the border. And we should have secured the border. We should have done our basic job a long time ago. That being said, what's happening at the border right now, the direct and proximate cause of it is President Obama's amnesty. This was all triggered in 2012 when President Obama unilaterally granted amnesty.
And when you say amnesty, I mean, that's the sort of the code word that the Republicans use. You're talking about the executive order, which does what?
Right. Well, if you look at the data, if you look at the evidence, and you and I are both lawyers, we're a big believer in looking at the facts and seeing where they lay. The facts here, in 2011, there were roughly 6,000 unaccompanied trying to cross into this country. Then in June of 2012, the president signed an order that granted amnesty to some 800,000 people who had entered illegally as kids. What it said is, even though you broke our laws, even though you're not entitled to be here, we're going to allow you to stay, we're going to give you a permit to work. And it was deliberately, it was directly targeted to people who had entered as kids. Now, the predictable consequences, the predicted consequence of that is that it created an enormous incentive for more kids to come in. If you're granting amnesty to people who come as kids, other kids will come, and it's gone now from 6,000 children in 2011 to it's expected to be 90,000 children this year and 145,000 next year. They're coming because they believe they will get amnesty, President Obama's amnesty, and if we want to solve the problem, the only way to do it is to eliminate the promise of amnesty.
All right, so we have the situation we have. How do you sort of reverse engineer? Let's say that for some reason the president's watching this, he says, you know, Senator Ted Cruz got a great idea, I'm lifting that. Right. Now we still have all those kids still down the border, right? We still have that problem. What do we do?
Well, your first question about how you eliminate the promise to amnesty, the most simple and direct way, I've introduced legislation in the Senate. It's very short. It's just 2 pages. And it says the president does not have the authority to grant amnesty to any new immigrants who come into this country. You know, one of the things that's really disturbing is just a few months ago, President Obama asked his Secretary of Homeland Security to prepare a plan for how President Obama could grant amnesty to 5 or 6 million more people here illegally. And I think the president intends to do it just a few months before the election, just like he did in 2012.
Right,
if we pass in the law an explicit provision that the president can't do this, that goes a long, long way to eliminating the promise of amnesty, which is why these kids are coming.
All right, let me go to a related topic, which has to do with the authority of the president. You clerked in the United States Supreme Court for the Chief Justice